I was actually working at Godshaw's. Doc, and a shoplifter came in and took something. And Godshaw's downtown on Main Street and ran out the door. And I mean, foolish me, I took off after him. Cool. I ran off after him. And they had Baton Rouge police officers in there undercover. And I remember them running too, but I was young. I was
faster?
Very fast.
Even with the knee.
And so we ran probably half of a mile.
You caught him?
Well, I did, but he was tired and I was getting tired. We finally both kind of fell. And he goes, wow, I'm not used to somebody running after me and catching me. Right. And I said, I'm not used to it either.
Welcome to Under the Knife, the podcast where we cut into topics such as politics, life advice, and medicine, and we do this with the precision of a licensed orthopedic surgeon. I'm your host, Dr. Craig Greene, an orthopedic surgeon and elected public official. Welcome to Under the Knife podcast, Dr. Craig Greene. Thanks for being on. Colonel Mike Edmonson.
Pleasure to be here, Doc. Thank you. I mean, you're have always been such an influence in my life, and I mean, everything you do, and just been a joy to know your family, your mom, your dad, and to know them so early in my life and in my career. And your dad was a mentor of mine. Your mom, such a beautiful soul.
I know.
Lord, everyone she touches.
I really hit the parent lottery.
You did, your brothers. I mean, you're just the whole family.
I know.
Everybody.
Well, take us back to that, because you were, like, my dad was in the Senate from 91 to 99. And tell us what you were doing about that time.
Well, I was a trooper. I was, I think at that particular time, I was a lieutenant. So I met him during his time in the legislature, and was able to speak with him many, many times. Mm-hmm. And just playing sports, and me and my wife playing tennis. I wasn't until later on, but that's when your mom came into my life. But just having a conversation with your dad, he is such a spirited person, the way he talks to people. Or, you know, when he looks at you, he's looking at you. So
sometimes he can look through you.
Yeah, yes. But something that was always been important to me in my life is listening to learn. And I found that about him, because his parents, we're great at listening to respond. Mm-hmm. You know, we know exactly what we want to say next. And even though you're talking to me, I'm really not listening to learn. And so certainly heard that from him, and just some incredible moments throughout my career.
And take us from your career from lieutenant to the highest ranks possible. Did you know that was obviously something that was in your heart and the trajectory, but there's also a lot of different pathways that can take. So tell us how that went.
Well, I mean, I grew up in Alexandria. Went to Menard High School, a little Catholic high school there in Alexandria. I played baseball. I loved it.
What position?
I was shortstop. I was a pitcher. I played center field.
Everything. Menard, you play everywhere.
I was blessed. I made All-American as a player. Back then, you got a little certificate. Now you get rings and all kinds of stuff. But so I wanted to play baseball. I really wanted to do that. My family moved in the summer of 1976 when I finished high school. Finished Dixie Youth Baseball there. We drove at 8 o'clock at night on July the 3rd of 76 to move to a home here in Kenilworth and start my time at LSU. But I wanted to play baseball. At that time, Jimbo Smith, who was also the equipment manager for the football team. So in the middle of baseball practice, Coach McClendon called him one time. I remember him, someone coming and getting him. They said, "Coach McClendon needs you." So he's back at where the football office was there in the stadium, and he left us, you know. But I guess football called, and he went. So I tried to play baseball at LSU. I actually was trying out for the team, and on a Friday night we went and played a pickup game of basketball. Now I'm a Catholic. I played on a Baptist team and a Methodist church. So I was
got them all bases covered.
I was, and I went in for a layup on a fast break. I had it clear. A guy was on my side. I did a crossover, do a left-handed layup, and my whole knee came out. And at that particular time, as you know, this is 77, and you weren't really into sports athletics from an orthopedic standpoint. Right. But Sam Irwin, Dr. Irwin, was happened to be on call, and I had my whole reconstruct my knee, was dislocated, everything. So it kind of ended a baseball career for me. I don't know what it would have done, you know, but I was able to come back. Yeah. They told me probably 60%. I came back 100%. Yeah. Finished LSU, started my career as a state trooper.
How'd you know you wanted to go into law enforcement?
Well, I mean, as I said, I wanted to play baseball. I mean, that was certainly a dream of mine. I'm in school studying psychology, sociology, dealing with people, and I enjoyed that aspect of talking one-on-one and learning about people and helping people at an early age. I mean, my Catholic faith, my growing up time at Alexandria was all about helping people, faith, family, friends, which is so important in your life. So I was actually working at Godchall's. Doc, and a shoplifter came in and took something, and Godchall's downtown on Main Street, and ran out the door, and I mean, foolish me, I took off after him. I ran off after him, and they had Baton Rouge police officers in there undercover, and I remember them running too, but I was young. I was
faster?
Very fast.
Even with the knee.
And so we ran probably half of a mile. And
you caught him?
Well, I did, but he was tired and I was getting tired. We finally both kind of fell. And he goes, wow, I'm not used to somebody running after me and catching me. Right. And I said, I'm not used to it either. And of course, then they caught up at that point. And I don't know, the bug kind of hit me as far as law enforcement. Started taking courses at LSU at that point, and graduated in criminal justice. Wow. With some adolescent psychology in there. And I was working with the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office as a reserve deputy, and was enjoying that, really going to people's homes and dealing with their problems and issues. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna put in for state police. You know, when I finished LSU, I actually became a full-time deputy, and I was there about 8 months and put my time in and took the test. And January of 1981, I became a Louisiana State Trooper. Wow. And just came up through the ranks. I was very blessed to make sergeant, lieutenant quickly. I became kind of the spokesman for state police before there was a spokesman. So I kind of learned all through the different aspects of state police during disasters, during emergencies, and actually getting the word out. I believe from early age the public has a right to know what you're doing. Right. They educate the public, tell them what you're doing, and continue to have that conversation with them. So I worked in many different areas within state police. In 1982, Alabama State Police came to Baton Rouge and was talking to Wiley McCormick, and he was the commander at Troop A, and he said, hey, look, we travel with Bear Bryant. We want to start something in that the state police troopers in the states, they travel with their coach, and that we can help each other. You help us when we come to Baton Rouge. We'll help you when you come here. Let's start something. And you see where it is today. Yeah. I mean, most sports have a police officer running with them. So I ran on the sidelines from Coach Stovall to Coach Miles. Wow. So I saw some very difficult times, but I saw how LSU football evolved over several decades. And I got to be part of 2 national championships. My kids grew up, running in the hallways of the away games, the bowl games. And, I got to see Coach Stovall, who was an incredible mentor, and how he was about going into the homes. I went on the visits with these players, the superstars that we've seen over time. I went to their home when they were in high school with the coaches, different ones. And Coach Stovall was all about family. And he was so charismatic. He still is. I mean, just this way he talks to people, and he made them feel welcome. But he always spoke to the parents first. Right. And I really like that. And he just look, when he would leave the house, the parents wanted to go to LSU, not only the kids. And I saw how it evolved through all the coaches. I saw what we have today in our academics, what an incredible program it is. I saw Coach Donato was really big on that. Coach Arnsparger was kind of like a CEO. And I spent a lot of time with Nick Saban. I really saw how he was all about getting things done. And what we have, I mean, he was part of building that.
Well, he was a process guy.
I mean, he was. You put something down, he put a plan together, and he's going to make it happen. Yeah. He's going to find the funds. He's going to find the things. He's all about, he's all about the athlete. I enjoyed listening to him, and he was a strong mentor of mine for 5 years. He and his wife, Terry, actually gave us our announcement party when Suzanne and I got married. Oh, wow. So they were part of it, and it was just watching him, listening to him, watch how he handled taking the LSU team and guiding it to a national championship. I was there walking into the Superdome when Nick Saban, when we go in and win. It's the same thing with Les Miles.
How great it was for it to be in Louisiana when that happened.
I was part of their conversation, their thoughts, because I'm sitting right there with them and listening to them, and watching Nick Saban. When we won, I went to his house like a couple of days later. I just remember this vividly because I walk into the kitchen and I hear him yelling. And I come around the corner, he's watching the replay of the game.
No kidding.
Okay, we won the game.
The one that won.
Yeah, we won the game. And beat Oklahoma. And he's sitting there going, we should have 2 more touchdowns. We shouldn't have allowed the one to be good. And I look at Terry and she goes, she goes to the TV and turns it off, says, Nick, we won the game. Yeah. And then he and I, but the conversations he and I had, and I've never really shared them because they were private moments between us,
But it's probably kids. Rich lessons there.
Yeah, same thing with Les Miles. Just listening to him, walking into the same stadium for the national championship and winning. I remember at that particular time with Les, I was interviewed for a superintendent's position, and we're walking into the game where they're going to announce the team, and we run out to the field. And I remember while we had paused for a minute, Les looks at me and said, Mike. I'm Coach, yeah. He goes, have you made Colonel yet? I go, no, Coach, we're in the process. He goes, well, you need that needs to happen. We need to make that happen. Les Miles said that? He said that. Wow. I said, wow, Coach. I said, let's just win this game. He looked at me and said, Mike, we got this game. We got it.
What year was this?
And that was, 08.
Really?
Yeah, 08. And about a month later, Bobby Jindal selected me as the superintendent, the 24th superintendent of the Louisiana State Police.
So how long were you? Blessing. So then let's switch from the coaches to the governor / politics. So you become colonel, which is your top dog.
Yes.
How many troopers are there in all of state troopers?
I had almost 3,000 employees.
Okay.
A little over 1,000 were state troopers. And look, there's no book written when you walk into that office that says, okay, here's how you act as colonel, how you lead, how you do things. No, prior to me, other superintendents, they didn't invite you in the office, come sit down and say, hey, here's how to do it. It just wasn't like that. Generally people that wanted those positions, you were kind of chastised a little bit. And I changed that. I wanted people to want my position because I know how hard it was to get it. I know how hard it was to keep it and to be in that mental state. So I wanted them to learn. So
like if you have somebody, it's like look at the Major League Baseball or any professional team. If somebody's nipping on your heels, you're going to be on your best game. Competition breeds excellence.
Absolutely. And my whole goal was make sure the troopers that came out understood those things, understood what leadership took. Because here's state police ride along. I mean, they're in a car by themselves. A lot of times they're away from anyone that can get to them during an emergency.
Right.
So you are in a position to make a difference in someone's life that truly needs that. Look, I've been on the side of the road, Doc, and helped deliver 2 babies. Okay, I have done mouth to mouth. I breathed on a guy that didn't live. I breathed on another one that did. So I have watched human life come into this world, and I've watched human life leave it. I've gone to tell people in the middle of the night that kid's not coming home, the parent's not coming home. I've sat with a guy and told him in a hospital in Livingston Parish to tell him that in a wreck that his wife is gone, his daughter is gone, and his grandbaby is no longer there. 3 generations. And to tell a human being that and to sit
That's
there
just hard.
And watch him and listen to him, and he goes, Trooper, my faith is going to get me through this. I mean, those are strong.
Well, I would
words.
imagine the stories that you could tell or the experiences that you've been firsthand or even, second, third hand, it could keep you up at night, but they could also inspire you to say, what lessons have I learned from this and how do I live my life differently in the next step? One of the things that I'm hearing you say that it reminds me of something I've heard once, that some leaders just want results, but true leaders drive culture. Culture drives behavior, and behavior produces results. And it sounds like, who knew that when you started with Coach Stovall, you would be eating the breadcrumbs of leadership, right? And then that in a short period of time later, you are the leader and that you are creating the culture that would drive behavior that would create results, right?
Absolutely.
And so it seems like there was not a culture of that there until you got there.
Well, you just certainly don't know it because
Right.
you're not a part of it. You're doing your own thing. You're working in different sections. You know, I remember talking I was probably a sergeant talking to a captain, and as a young troop, he goes, Mike, what do you want to be? What's your goal in life? And I sat there and I thought about it, and Doc, you know what came to my mind? I said, I want to be happy. And he thought that was so superficial.
Did you know what that meant at the time? Happy?
In my mind, I wanted to be fulfilled.
Right.
I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to be a better person, even though I made plenty of mistakes. But I tried to learn from those. But it meant that to me. But to him, it meant, what? Well,
Right.
he said, you're not going anywhere. He retires as a captain.
Yeah.
I became superintendent. As superintendent, he actually came to me, and he's a very educated man. And he said, I'd like to do something. I'd like to help. I really wanted to remind him of that story.
Right.
But I didn't.
Yeah, you had the
because I
grace
saw
not to.
value.
Right.
And I put him on
On
a board.
Sure.
And he made a difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tried to see that in people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt, Doc, that I was better than anyone. I've never felt that way. I've never talked over people. I just never have. And look, I don't think that's a weakness. I think that's a strength. I think when you can listen to those things and you learn from your mistakes, and I'll say it again, I certainly made them, but I did try to learn from them. I do understand that you have to surround yourself with a team that has to be all in.
Right.
But you have to continue to engage that team. You have to continue to have conversations with that team. And that's difficult to do because you're off doing your own thing. Human nature takes you away from that. And I think if there's failures, it's certainly in that area that things become expectations. And I think as I look back now, I expect less. And I can actually enjoy life more.
Well, to connect some of those dots, one of my favorite quotes I've heard from Elon Musk recently is happiness equals reality minus expectations.
Sure.
And I tell patients that all the time. Like, I thought this was going to be bloodless, free, no pain. I'm like, well, if you think that, you're going to be very disappointed. But if I let you know how it's really going to be, then you'll be very happy. And if we just adjust our expectations, because happiness is reality minus expectations. And so, but yet to still have high ambitions, goals, standards, et cetera, right?
No, absolutely. And you and I have had so many conversations, and one's coming to my mind greatly right now is you operate on my wife with a hip. And I mean, she loved playing tennis. That's how we met. And now she's back playing better than before. And we're texting after the surgery because as Paul's is in it, and you're sending me pictures and realizing what happens with the hip. I mean, you're cutting out a part of your body and replacing it. And that's scary. But listening to you of what you need to do to get better, because it's all about, just like just fixing mistakes.
Right.
Saying you're sorry is just a step.
That's right.
Your actions now have to say why you're sorry and not to do it again. Right. Well, when you're telling patients things they have to do, they need to do those things. Right. Your body heals. But if you want to get back to the level, there's things you need to do. And I just had those memories throughout my life. Growing up as a little boy, watching my grandfather and my dad on Saturday mornings. As a little boy, you want to go watch cartoons. But I went to the post office because I got a chance to be with my dad and spend that quality time with him. And making, as a little boy, shake his hand.
Look him in the eye.
Listen to his name. Repeat his name back and tell him your name.
Right.
Those things were incredible to me.
Right.
To listen to my grandfather, watch me, I used to have a lot more hair, and I always see my comb in my hair, but I remember him saying, son, how you look will bring people to you, but how you treat them will keep them there.
That's right.
And I always remembered that, especially as a leader. Leadership is not sitting behind a desk.
No.
It's getting out there and understanding what's taking place and being a part of it. Because let me tell you something, as head of state police, and it's not just state police, the fire marshal office, motor vehicle, your training academy, boards and commissions, the laboratories, the training, all that stuff you're responsible for. And I learned you're responsible for every single person's action. On your worst day, Doc, you go in that operating room, your expectations that your instruments are there, they're prepared, they're ready to go, your team is in place.
Right.
And the importance of that team is incredible.
And one of the things I think about being in leadership in general is there should be some degree of, as the leader, I will take the blame and distribute the credit. Because for you to successfully run 3,000 people and keeping Louisiana safe, you can't do it by yourself. So you have to have them. But when something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Absolutely.
And so, but that's the onus of leadership, right? That it's lonely at the top, and not many people want that job. It's a difficult job. It can be said it can be an impossible job, right? But somebody's got to do it for society to thrive, or else the bad guys win, right?
Well, you sit in front of a group of individuals that want to make rank and get promoted. There's 10, 7, 8, whatever number's in there. Only one's going to make it, Doc.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to make one person really happy, and you're going to disappoint the rest of them.
Right.
So what I thought was important was to go talk to them and say, look, this is why you didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you need to do. And I made the other people in the room that was there make sure they went and did the same thing.
Right.
But it's still, those people still hold that to them because you're the one that made the decision. Same thing with discipline.
Right.
And to me, discipline was a form of trying to make them better. Now, the ones you terminated, there was nothing you could do for that person. So I had no problem with that. But the ones I disciplined, I really tried to make them learn. I remember watching a trooper one time, and I was in North Louisiana, and I noticed when I was there, he was kind of avoiding me. I said hello to him. He kind of looked away. And I said, wow. So half an hour later, I saw him, and I said, hey, come here. I said,
what's going on?
Yeah, what's the matter? You know, we're having a conversation. I confront you. He goes, I said, what is wrong? He said, you don't remember? I go, well, no, but if you want to remind me, remind me.
Yeah.
You disciplined me. You gave me time off. That cost me money. I said, wow. I said, I thought it was going to make you better.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I've forgotten it. I've moved on. Now, you got me remembering it. What have you done to better yourself?
Right.
I said, because I'm not holding against you.
Right.
And, I saw change in that individual, and I actually was able to promote that individual at a later date because I saw that he really understood that. And look, you see that in life.
Well, and could you imagine putting him for a day with Coach Saban?
Oh, wow. Yes.
Because think about the discipline on the football field, or discipline, like I had to have a fair amount of discipline to go through medical school or residency, business school, even to do my practice, raise kids. And a lot of that is, I talked to my brother-in-law, bro, about like his version is, every day you got to get up and go to the salt mines. Like there's a little bit of grind involved, but it's almost, if you don't, it's like working out with weights. If you don't have resistance that seems impossible, then you don't get the stretch of the fiber, and then it doesn't grow stronger. And without that discipline, or without someone challenging you, looking out for your blind spots, saying this is where you could be better. I mean, oftentimes people will say, hey, I'll have this surgery, but do I have to do therapy, or can I just do it on my own? And my answer is, do you think LSU would play better with or without a coach? And typically the answer is depends on which coach, but still the principle is obviously with a coach, with someone saying that's not right, you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
And I think no one will ever rise to the level of leadership unless they're open and vulnerable to someone else coaching, teaching them, pointing out what could be better and how it could be better. And honestly, the coaches that I've had, real football coaches as well as mentors in orthopedics, if they appreciated and loved my pathway enough and me as a person to make me better, it meant telling me I was doing something wrong. And so you have to have the spirit to hear constructive criticism. And like when I hire people now, they have to be able to take constructive criticism. There's no way you can come in to our team and know exactly what to do right.
Yeah, you've got to seek it. You've got to expect it.
And you got to say, how can I do better? I want to do better, but I need you to tell me how I can do better. And I also think that's how a relationship works. Is like, we were in marriage therapy once, and my wife was like, yeah, he doesn't meet my needs. And the marriage therapist said, well, what are your needs? And she goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, how do you expect him to know if you don't know, So it's the whole idea of like, okay, let's come up with a target, and how do we hit that? But you have to be, in order to become a leader, I think that you have to be able to accept constructive criticism along the way. It's impossible, because then you have to be able to give it as well.
Yeah. I mean, you were on the sidelines. You brought up Coach Saban. I mean, listening to learn is so important. Your goal on that when you're playing college ball, you want to play on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that. Okay, watching and listening to say, why is he coaching in the last second of a game we're up by 20 points? Because it's important to him that you understand what it takes to be successful. And it goes to the end of the game. Your position, knowing not only your position, but what the person on your left and right does. Understanding as a receiver what you think the defense is going to do. You running that play, that quarterback looking around, that leadership role. And Nick Saban was all about that. And I can talk about each one of the coaches. Sure. I can tell you their character. I can tell you their personality. I can tell you the conversations. I remember all that because I watched it. I was part of it. I was at that field, when conversations were taking place between two coaches at the end of the game, when you're wondering what they're saying. Well, I heard what they said. Yeah. And I had private conversations with each one of them after the games and in moments explaining themselves. And you talk about personal lives. You talk about your commitment to your wife. You talk about listening to learn. And listen, I've been married before, but who I'm with now for 23 years, wow. What an incredible human being. She challenges me every day. Suzanne is an amazing person, and she is the most important person in my life. Because if she's not, then I've got a problem.
Well, and there's no way that y'all can have a successful relationship if you don't listen to learn.
Yes. Oh, no, they'll wake you up in the middle of the night looking at you going, and you're going, wow.
Just a couple more questions and we'll land the plane. And I want this to be word association because you've been around some remarkable people and you are a remarkable person. So, first of all, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Greatness.
Faith.
Because you've been around some highly successful people.
I've shook the hand of two popes, Pope John Paul, Pope Francis. I've held their hands because my work I did in human trafficking and went to Rome. I've been to safe homes where these girls have been human trafficked. I've had those conversations with them, and I've listened to the faith. I've told a guy that his mom, his wife, his daughter, his granddaughter. I've had interviews with people that have lost family members and friends, and I've looked at it. I've walked up that driveway at 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's up, Doc? The mom, looking at the clock. So I've seen the faith that you've got to have to get where you are in life. And I think greatness, I just don't think we pray enough. I don't think we talk enough. I think we do things quietly that maybe sometimes let's do it publicly. You and I pray together.
I mean, I agree with you because in order for a society or all of us or individually to be great, there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And for us to get there, we have to have faith and hope that we can. And it's got to be in something bigger than us.
Yeah. Everything you will ever need in life, Doc, you already have.
That's right.
You already have it. So it takes someone to play, having faith in someone, not just Almighty God, but just having faith in someone that, you know what, make me a better person, Doc.
That's right.
Make me whole again. Fix me, and I'll take it from there. And I saw that meeting presidents. President Obama. I mean, I've met 3 or 4 presidents. I go back to 82. So we've got Carter, Reagan, all of them in there. I've met both Bush. I've been in the White House, but as superintendent, I sat down 3 times with President Obama. Regardless of my political affiliation, I sat down with the most powerful person on earth. And I got to sit there for 3 hours. Who got to do that? And we talked about the police officers that were killed, and we talked about what we can do. And I brought up to him, I said, listening to learn. And I said, you've got 2 daughters, I've got 4 kids. And look, I saw him catch my attention, look directly at me. He was 15 feet from me. Left hand, he's writing it down, listening to learn. And I also told him, I said, you know what? Something we don't get to do a lot in life, but we need to do it. Police officers can't do it. You can do it in surgery. You can pause.
Yeah.
Okay, you can pause when something's going on and you say, whoa, let me look at this again.
Right.
Let me fix it. Police officers don't get to do that.
No, can't pause.
There's no pause. You come in with a gun, I've got to make a decision.
Right then.
That training has got to be there.
Instinct.
That training to say, you know what? How are you going to react in a situation like that? And that's hard, but you can't do that. And I told him that, and he was listening. He engaged me. And in his press conference afterwards, he brought both those things up and talked about them. Because that pause, in life, why don't we take a pause sometimes? Why don't, when we're running down that hill and we know we're wrong, why don't we stop? Why don't we pause, and why don't we fix it? Why don't we make the change that has to be made to be a better person or to make someone else better,
right.
you know?
No, there's a great book called Thinking Fast and Slow. There's 2 different pathways in the brain. And, you know, if a lion's attacking you in the jungle or if you meet a bad guy with a gun, you got to think fast. If I'm in surgery and there's a bleeding happening, I can't go, well, let me go think about this for 20 minutes. You got to stop the bleeding. But there are other decisions that, look, it's better to think through this slowly. And the real error that can be made is when you're in a situation that requires you to think fast and you think slow, or you're in a situation that requires you to think slow and you think fast. First thing is identify which one is it? Is this a slow or fast? And oftentimes our emotions get involved, and we're like, I got to make a decision now, and you make the wrong one. You know, that's very good. 2 more quick questions, and then we'll land the plane. That kid that tore his knee up, what would you tell him from where you are now? If you had to go back to him and say, hey, what advice would you give him?
I think what I said a minute ago, I'd say, Michael, pause sometimes. Listen to your heart in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to your dad.
Mm.
Take those pauses and really think in that moment. And, you know, there's just a lot of things. You know, would I do things differently in life?
Of course.
But then what if I don't have what I have now?
Right.
What if I don't have my kids? What if I don't have Michael? You know, what if I don't have Brittany? What if I don't have 2 grandkids,
right.
Maddie
right.
and Stella? What if I don't have Kate and Casey? You know, what if a decision I made, those things didn't happen? So really, do you want to change your life? You do want to change some decisions, but what if it changed what you don't have right now, your family?
Right. Well, and I look at that, you know, I'm an abuse survivor. And Tony Robbins has a phenomenal special on this, that all of us could look back at our stories and say, oh, either something bad happened to me or I made a bad decision. But out of that came a lesson, and it made me who I am today. And do I wish I wouldn't have, either that wouldn't have happened or I wouldn't have made that decision? Of course. But it made me who I am today. Right. And so it's hard. I mean, of course, it's also impossible, but it's hard. You can't live there. And I have a friend and he lives this way better than anybody. He's an orthopedist in the Woodlands. He's like, man, I look back, what lesson can I learn? But then it's moving forward now. We're going to move forward and not live there. I think that's so important. Last question for us. What's next for Colonel Mike Edmonson? What's your next chapter?
Look, I don't think I'm engaged enough right now in what I really want to do. I mean, look, I haven't.
You're not finished,
done this. I'm far from finished. But I spoke daily for 4 decades.
Yeah. This
is really first podcast I've done.
I think we could go on for hours.
You know, other stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that have meaning, because
they're parables.
You don't tell stories that have no meaning, that's not relevant.
Right.
That
Why
didn't
tell
learn
them?
a lesson, that doesn't want to engage people.
Right.
So I mean, I'm enjoying working with a company out of Houston and here in Louisiana that does disaster work and goes and really makes a difference when things are taking place in the oil and field. I'm not doing police work. I want to speak more. I want to be more of a mentor. I want to be more of a dad, a husband. You know, my wife and I are traveling. Look, people go, oh, you're going someplace. Look, if I get invited, I'm going to go.
That's right.
I don't know what tomorrow brings.
You had to say no for 40 years.
You've worked on me. You know my back issues. We got it working now. My shoulder.
Carpe diem.
You know, absolutely. So I want to do more of this. I want to give back what I've learned, the mistakes I've made. I want to talk about them. I want to say them. I want to say how I could have been better. There's better decisions that I could have made. And just as a family, I want to engage. My son is gay. Michael, he came out as a gay, and dealing with that and understanding that and supporting him because you love your kids.
Yeah,
you just want to be successful.
Unconditional love.
Yeah, he's got a program called Worthy Mentoring where he is mentoring these young kids and being that hand when you reach out. I think of the little girl that had been human trafficked, and we talked about reaching your hand out, and she goes, but the hands weren't always the right ones. You know, to look at a little girl that's 19 and say, you're beautiful. And she go, no, I don't want to be beautiful, but it only made people want me more.
Yeah.
To get in the heart of those, as you dealt with those cases and really brought them forward to say, I want to be the right hand. When you grab a hand, I want it to be the right hand.
Have hope.
To give you hope.
Yeah.
Hope is an incredible gift from God.
Well, and hopelessness is a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
Mike, I can't thank you enough for keeping us safe for all those years, being in charge of keeping us safe, for all that you've shared to so many people. But on this podcast today, we could have a 4-hour podcast. I think you could continue to teach us all things, but also for all that you're going to continue to do. You're a giver, and man, we can't thank you enough. We love you a lot, and thanks for being on.
Love you too.
Where can people? Do you want to be found? Where can people find you?
Look, I like Instagram.
Okay.
And look, this is the worst invention.
Yeah, right.
It's also the
best. What are you on Instagram?
I'm MDE. I mean, you can see me MDE003.
Okay.
You know, medmonson58@gmail.com. I don't mind people having that. I look, every sheriff, every legislature, every chief, they all had my numbers because it was important that we talk.
That's right. Communication.
You know, getting out there and working together.
Yeah.
You know, that was something that just wasn't taking place. So those partnerships, I thought that was invaluable.
Right.
And continue that talk.
Absolutely.
So I want to do more in that and do that. But yeah, I'm open for people calling me. You know, I'm in conversation with the group now to try to help them, you know, more in outreach programs and leadership. I want to get more involved in that and do that. And look, I want to give back. You know, I don't want it all to be about me.
Sure.
You know, I don't want to be so outwardly focused that I'm inwardly bankrupt. You know, so I want to keep that inside as I'm moving forward. So, look, I want to have conversations. I want to listen and
listening to learn.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll do it again
Thank
sometime.
you for what you do.
All right, bro. Thank you for joining us today, and a big thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to this surgical exploration of politics, healthcare, and life. I've been your host, Dr. Craig Greene. Remember to stay informed, stay sharp, and join us next time to see which of life's topics we'll dissect under the knife.